They look like nunchucks.
They do.
Well, hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Travis and Tommy and Lori.
Today,
Where are we at?
we are at the William Harris
Homestead.
Yes.
It's found in 1825.
500 acres.
That's pretty much all we know.
Yep. Well, we know that it's still owned by the original family.
We know that. I actually don't know anything. She did the research. She found it. I think it was a Facebook
Yeah.
group.
See,
that she
somebody
part of.
somebody had posted something on the Facebook group, right? One of the groups I'm a member of, and they had posted an event that had already happened, and it happened on the weekend he was working, so that we wouldn't have been able to come for it. And I was like, well, what is this? So I started looking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we gotta go. So I called. They're having problems finding volunteers, so we got a private tour because it's right now it's by appointment only. But I caught a sneak peek of our guide, and she looks amazing.
Yeah.
So pretty excited.
It's a cool layout here. I mean, there's a bunch of little buildings and stuff, and we'll find out what all that is.
Can't wait. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to show you.
I don't know if the house was built 1825 or what, but we'll figure all that out. If so, it looks really good.
It does. Looks great. This whole property is freaking stunning just from Jump Street.
There's a lot here. I don't know what none of it is. What do you think? Biggest one?
I think it might actually be the biggest one. Man, that thing's beautiful. Got a lot of mistletoe in it too.
I'd love to climb it.
You just bring a hip now. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty out here.
We got the pavilion right here. We parked here. I don't know if we're supposed to park or not.
Well, what I read is 500 acres, and the homestead is on 50. So
500 acres. That's a lot.
yeah. We also saw a cemetery on the property coming in.
Walton County itself was formed in 1818, and in 1820 they did a land lottery trying to get people to come in to move into this area. And two gentlemen each won 250-acre plots. A third gentleman came along and he purchased both of their plots, and he's the one, Mr. William Carr, who actually built this log house. And around the early 1830s, my great-great-great-grandmother moved here from Oglethorpe County with her two youngest children. And William Harris actually was one of those children. William, being a young man, he met a young lady from Athens, and they fell in love and married, and they had 12 children in this house.
Wow.
And his mom lived here as well until she passed away. And his dad had already passed away in Oglethorpe County. So the history goes back a long ways. His dad and his grandfather, his name was Thomas Harris, and they all came from Virginia. And Thomas had served in the American Revolution, so there is, like I said, a long history there. But we began here around the 1830s when the Harrises bought this farm. They had other children who had married people in the area, so that's why they moved to Walton County.
So this has been passed down
Through the generations. The original 500 acres plus is still owned by the Harris family. The
That
Harris,
is wonderful.
yeah. Up around the 1980s, the farm had been used by different family members to live in after William and Harriet died. And then no one had lived here for about 35 years. And they kept a good roof on the house, and because they stored hay in here and farm tools and stuff. So my cousin, who was the first woman on the Georgia Board of Regents for the university system, they moved out from Atlanta, she and her husband, and they built their home across the road. And she is the one who did the application for the National Register of Historical Places and got it on the register, and then started the restoration. And if you'll come on in the living room, I'll show you. This is what, can you see that?
I sure can.
This is what the log house looked like in the
Wow.
1980s.
Wow.
So, if you see that, you see there
It
was
needed a lot of work, didn't it?
a lot of work.
A
A lot of people would have given up on it. Miss Jessie and the family got the preservationist involved. Anyway, they took it back to the original footprint of the house, as you see there. And then they came forward with what we have here today. Her dream was to do historic education. And to date, we have done over 125,000 of Georgia's school children, bringing them through the homestead. And we do a day in the 19th century. We dress in period dress, we take them back, we explain the cotton crop. We grow cotton every year.
Oh, nice.
And so the kids can pick cotton. And then we show them how they would cart it to get the seeds out, and you get all the fibers going in a certain direction. Then we spin on the spinning wheel and show them how they made the thread. Then we go to the loom over here and show them how they made the cloth. If they wanted a colored t-shirt, you see we had to dye it. And those particular ones over there are dyed with marigolds, onion skins, berries. There was not a lot of indigo around this area at the time, but you know, you've got a lot of walnuts, and so that would get your browns and your blacks.
Right.
But those little towels up on the top of the loom were made on that loom.
Wow.
So, you know, we tell them, that's why they probably, if they lived here in the 1800s, they probably would have had only one shirt.
That's
Maybe-
exactly
maybe
right.
two.
Yep.
Or a buddy with a brother, and they could at least share.
Yeah. A lot of things got passed down, didn't it?
That's right. That's William and Harriet, and you can tell a lot from pictures when you really look. I think maybe she probably cut his hair. You see the difference there. He sort of looks like George Washington.
He kind of does, doesn't
And
he?
then you look at Grandmother Harriet. She had a garter on her neck, so we can get a little medical history
Right.
from that picture.
Right.
And she looked like she was tired.
She-
That's about all I can say.
I'd
If I
imagine
had
so.
12 children,
Right.
you know, 9 of the children lived to maturity, and the majority of them lived in this area, you know, as they grew up. Some crossed the road, some crossed the bridge, you know, so that's kind of the way they did it back then. Several of them are buried in the cemetery, the family cemeteries here on the farm. My great-grandmother is the first child there, Susan Emily, and she married William Jennings, who was also from Clark County area, and he served in the Civil War, was injured. They lived just across the river here, and so I have good roots. When the children come for the field trip, that's one of the best ways, I think, to sort of tell you what we do here is we divide them into units. And here in the log house, we talk about food preservation, and you know, they didn't have Publix to go shop at,
Right.
so we talk about, you know, planting the crops, and that the boys would probably be all day long learning how to plant the crops
Right.
and bring them along. And then the girls, even at a very young age, would learn how to put these crops away. The Creek Indians lived here on this property prior to the Harrises coming. And that has long history. We work with a group of Native Americans that have been so good to come up here and show us, you know, their lives, how they do. I tell the kids, don't say we didn't have running water. Because, Johnny, will you run to the spring and get me a bucket of water? You know? So I think a lot of it, especially when we're in the cemetery, I would usually try to tell the children, you're at the age that you more than likely have your grandparents, possibly your great-grandparents. Talk to them now. Find out the stories. And, you know, it's good to know when they were born and those type dates and stuff,
Yes.
but it's even better to know the history. As I say, they make you who you are. You know, they're a part of you, and it's a lot easier to get it by word of mouth than it is going on ancestry and stuff. We're very blessed here, you know, the Harris family, thanks to my cousins who have done this. I'm a retired nurse. And so I was great at birthing babies, you know, and I retired about 18 years ago, and then I came to help them here at the homestead because we are so blessed. Not many people have what we have here.
Yeah.
And to know, my sister and I, several years ago, brought our children and grandchildren, and we sat around the table and had Thanksgiving here.
Oh.
You know, and that gets you.
Yeah,
You
it
know, to
does.
sit where your great-great-grandparents have sat, you know, in a home where I know there was love, you know, they worked so hard, you know, to help make this country.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I went to one up in Raleigh, and it was the same thing. It was laid out, you know, like the House and Horseshoe up in North Carolina. They actually do a little program where they show the weaving and the candle making, a little bit of the history, but a lot of these places that are out there don't offer anything.
Don't do it.
You know, where we're from up there, that place belongs to the state. Doesn't
Yeah,
belong
it's
to the
not
family. It's very rare that they're still in the family that they originated.
Well, the Harrises have involved their children and grandchildren, and it's not unusual to see them, you know, a lot of them are on the foundation board. And so when it's sort of bred into you, you know,
Yep.
you want to be involved, and we hope that this will always be here.
I
you
hope so
know.
too.
So there won't ever be a subdivision here, we'll put it
Perfect.
that way.
Thank you.
No, we're open, we're in a little transition right now. Normally we've been open on Saturdays, and we're not doing that right yet for the year. But if we see that we have the interest, we had Blacksmith Day last Saturday, and we were covered up with visitors, and that's wonderful.
That's
And they were first-time visitors, you know, and you feel like you want to share it. In the bedroom on your left, as you go up, there's a bayonet that's framed on the wall. I want you to look at it. It's from the Civil War, and it was found stuffed down in between the boards, the walls, when they were restoring the house.
Wow.
Somebody brought it home, and I don't know if they hid it when they knew that Sherman was down at Social Circle or what, but they found it then.
Hold on.
Here we go now. Oh, cool.
Another spinning wheel.
There we go. Leave it at Tommy. Taking liberties.
Sort of a little
Yeah, I think so.
Or is that a different process?
I don't know. You would have to ask
It's
her.
obvious we don't know enough about spinning wheels.
Even though we own one. Or, well,
We
technically,
don't know.
our daughter does.
So cool.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Look at these
Yes.
beams.
It's cool.
Everybody had to share a room, though. To make a corn husk mattress, it's not just any old husk tossed in a bag. The husks are gathered as soon as they are ripe. The outer husks are rejected. The softer inner ones are dried, trimmed, and drawn through a hatchet or comb so as to cut into strips. They are then enclosed in a sack or formed into the mattress. Corn husk mattresses are so durable that with ordinary care, they will last from 5 to 10 years. Wow.
That's a pretty good return.
It is. Right? Especially for the work that goes into it. It's a ladybug.
Yeah, I see that.
Of course, when they restored the house in the 1980s, we got electricity that was not here before. We got a dishwasher. This was my great-grandmother there. That's
Yeah.
Susan Emily, and then that was her husband, William Jennings. And he was in, like I said, the Civil War. He was injured in it and was an invalid the rest of his life.
Wow.
They lived just across the river. It was their house. But
Yeah, it's
we teach
beautiful.
the children about cooking. Like this is an old Dutch oven. You would take it, you would set it on hot coals, and then put the coals all around it and on top of it, and that way they would bake. You know, so some of the tools they would have used in their cooking. It couldn't have been easy. The original kitchen was out between here and the smokehouse.
Right.
And they did that because houses burned on average, I think they said about every 7 years back then. So when they restored the house, they brought it in at that time
Okay.
up to here. So churn the milk and the honey bowl, the honey pot, that was original to the house. It had moved to Texas and then came
Wow.
back home.
Wow.
So when the children are here, we put out a lot of dried fruits and vegetables on the table, you know, so they could see how things were preserved.
Yeah.
So before we go, what do you think these are? Do you know?
I would say, I'm just going to take a stab in the dark. I'm pretty good at guessing. Let's say they put something in there to keep the ants from climbing up
You
the...
got it. Put water in it, and it's getting up the table.
Yeah.
These are some of the candles that we dip. Out here we have a big pot, and the darker ones, the wax is scorched, but they're still good candles, you know. And they look like nunchucks. So, anyway, see where they've started dipping those?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're that tiny. It's just the thread, the wick, and then the more they dip, the fatter they get.
Wow.
It's a small little cemetery.
Okay.
We don't know
Why?
why. I said, I think they're watching over us to make sure we take
Yep.
care of things. So it's just different family members. Right up here, where the American flag is, that's he died in Iwo Jima. And then right up there to the back was where my great grandfather, he served in the Civil War. John's father served in the American Revolution. 9 babies buried in this area.
Wow.
And, you know, we bring the kids here and talk to them. You see, a lot of them just says infant, they're not even named.
Right.
These are modern burials here. We had upset stomach, you can make a tea with the lemon balm leaf. And that was their Pepto-Bismol. The lambs here, there's a property in it that stops bleeding, so that's their Band-Aid. Didn't have Walgreens to go to, so that was their medicine cabinet. When they were storing the house, I understand you couldn't stand up in here, and they kept digging, trying to make it to where you walk in, and they kept hitting something. And this is what they were hitting. This was the original floor.
So you got back down to the original floor.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I tell the kids, you know, these probably came from down around the river. And there were no tractors back then. They were probably dragging it with a mule, you know, up here. But it stays 58 to 62 degrees in here. So they would have brought all their produce, eggs, any of that, you know, would have been in here. So the Colonial Dames, like I said, it's one of the groups that meets here a good bit. They've been so supportive of us. They've helped us with all of this signage.
That's nice. That's
Isn't
good.
that wonderful? So you see the support beams,
Right.
you know, the whitewashed homemade brick, you know, the field stones for your foundation. And that's the way you built houses back then.
Must have been alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This lasted.
They must have been just fine.
Yep. And this is the smokehouse. And usually this is done after the first frost in the fall, you know, when they kill the animals and bring them here in the original salt box, salt them for 6 to 8 weeks. Then they'll take them, they'll hang them, they'll build what they call a coal fire, put hickory and birch in there to flavor the smoke, and do that for 7 to 10 days. And it's just they don't want a big fire, they mainly want smoke. And smoke them, and then they hang them in here, and they're good for 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
So, we do weddings here, and we've had when the bride would come from the log house, and they would be doing it down there, and she would walk all down through here. Beautiful. I will say, in around the 1850s, there were about 18 slaves here. But that's part of the history.
That is part of the history.
We have an archaeological dig going on right now, and we're trying to find where their houses were. And so that's in progress as we speak.
Okay.
We've got the salt house down there, which was very important, especially during the Civil War. I've often heard stories how they would take a pan of just dirt and just, you know, would take it and try to get the salt out of it, because that's, you do so much preservation and cooking with your salt. Civil War reenactor did yesterday and the day before. He does the day in the life of a soldier.
Oh, man.
To his needle and thread or his hardtack, or he's wonderful. I'm sorry, there's somebody.
Oh, my Lord. Sorry, guy.
And then this one. We sort of did this out of the games area.
Okay.
And the 1800s children's. Did you see inside?
I didn't, but I heard y'all
Here,
laugh.
let me,
And in that center container box, we have games from the 1800s. And when we do events, we will open it up. This was our cornfield, and it just sat empty. And so we were finding so many artifacts, and every time we'd plow, you know, we were getting the arrowheads and stuff. So this is all the artifact that we found on the homestead is from tools to, you know, down to, they must have used a dish and then broke a dish is all I can figure.
We're not
Because
washing
we won't want to wash it, so we'll just crash it because there's so much of this broken pottery and such in here. And then while we were doing it, the Appalachian River runs along the side of the property, and about a quarter of a mile over at one time was the Kilgore Covered Bridge, and some teenagers burned it. And so the log up there at the top came from that bridge, was found, and so we found some pictures, and so that's the bridge to the past.
wow.
But all of this stuff was found, and just you pick it up everywhere you turn, you know.
Old sole of a shoe.
So this is our mini museum.
Love it.
It's pretty great.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm less interested in the tools than I am the housing.
Yeah, we, two of my cousins and my sister and I, we washed all of these things things and put linseed oil on them. I tell you, that was a job.
I bet you.
You know, trying to clean all this stuff. All of this.
Wow.
It's a lot of tools. That was part of a gin. If we come out here, rather than walk all the way down, we can go this way. It's shorter. When you get 81, you're lucky stand. You take a shortcut.
While Tommy explored the spring house, her and I stood up there and talked and had a really nice conversation. She is just so witty and funny, and it was a little bit like having one of my grandmothers back again, listening, you know, to her personality and the stories that she tells.
They can pick cotton because
That's
if
pretty
it's
neat,
the
too.
right time of year.
And admission is $6.
Yeah.
Okay.
And $5 for seniors, I think.
It is.
Very blessed to have it.
If you do come up on anything like this, it's usually replica, you know.
But to know the history is even
Right.
Right.
I'm so glad y'all came today.
I appreciate you having us. So, wow. Totally blew my mind. What'd you think?
Really not what I expected, because most of the places we end up going to is, I mean, I'm grateful that it's there, but they don't really have a whole lot of information. They got the book information they tell you, but this is all family. It's all ran by family, and we actually got our tour from a family member, a great
Granddaughter.
granddaughter.
You know, we drive around a lot, as y'all know, and we see a lot of these old houses get knocked down, and because nobody wants them and nobody, cares to renovate them. And then you've got this one family who has done every single thing. And we're not talking just one person. We're talking groups upon groups of cousins and, third, fourth generation aunts and uncles and stuff like that, who are doing everything possible to preserve their family history. So it's just really cool. It's very commendable. And the amount of education that these people provide to their community for pennies.
They actually do a lot of field trips for students here. They show them how to make the candles. They show them how, they got cotton here, they got corn, they got tobacco, they got herb gardens, they got it all. And they go through and show them how all this stuff worked back in the 1800s, and it is awesome. It's perfect.
Our guide also, just let me say that about that. She was a boss, man.
Yep. This is by far one of the best we've been to, and you shouldn't have to look so hard to find it.
No, you shouldn't.
The stuff like this should be. Everybody should come and see this stuff. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yep. 10 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10. So you heard it.
11 out
You heard
of
it
10.
from Mr. Grouchy, Grumpy.
Well, like you said, our tour guide. I mean, just her emotions of this is her family.
So,
she's proud. She's proud of
she
this.
should be.
And yes.
All right, well, I'm going to step out and get a picture of these camellias.
Well, all right. Welcome back. Hopefully this takes, because this would be take 3.
That's all right. It happens. So, our experience here was very, very good.
Yes, she was wonderful. I just absolutely fell in love with her.
Yeah, we couldn't ask for a better guide. I mean, a great granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So
Who knew her stuff? She had so much information. It was almost overwhelming how much she knew and the processes she explained and all that stuff. It was freaking great. Totally worth going. $6, man.
$6.
$6.
Yeah, you can't quite beat that. The information, I'd love to go when they have their days where they do the candle making and the cotton, and they turn it into string
Thread.
and do the weaving. I mean, that would be awesome to see the blacksmithing.
Yes.
That would really be a cool trip, and they should charge more for them days.
I
But
think
anyway-
they should, yeah.
But anyway, a lot of people would have gave up on this house, like she was saying. I mean, it was in pretty bad shape, but thankfully the family pulled together. and
Exactly.
They're
'cause
like, nope, we're gonna get it right.
we
So,
see so many amazing homes getting knocked down or falling down because the family doesn't have the sense of preservation or perseverance
right.
that it takes to do these type of renovations or even apply to get them on the historic registry so that they can apply for grants.
Right. Yeah.
To get them fixed up. So, I mean, it was really, it blew your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I love that the family cemetery was on the property.
Yes, that was so cool.
I also love that the other 450 acres is family. They live on it. It's a working farm. They grow cotton, corn.
There was a nursery up the road that had the family name, so we think
I'm
that
pretty sure.
that was probably
family.
family too. But I didn't even think to ask her that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But, I mean, it wasn't that far away. But,
They
yeah,
do
I mean,
hay rides, and I don't know if y'all heard it, but those tools, her and her sister hand cleaned each one of those tools with linseed oil.
that's amazing.
That is amazing.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you,
and-
she is a beast, man. I know people my age, and I am people my age that she can run circles around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah, I
phenomenal.
don't know if y'all caught it. She's 81. She turned 81 the weekend before, and she gets it done.
She does. She gets it done.
I'm so grateful for her
I love
to
that
meet us
picture
out
so
there
much.
and give us the history, give us the tour. Any questions we had, she was ready to answer them.
Yeah.
Can't beat it.
And like she said, they do weddings out there, and I can imagine how beautiful
Yes.
those weddings are because that whole property, there was not an ugly place on that
No,
entire
no,
property.
no,
It was
not.
all stunning, every bit of it.
Yeah. It's by far one of the best places we've been.
I think it is, and I think she's by far one of the best guides we've ever had.
Yeah, at least we got real true family information.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though it was overwhelming because we don't know the family, so we don't know who uncle and aunt and great. We know all that, but getting it direct from her really helps.
It really did. But the pavilion, I could understand where that would be great for a reception too. It was huge. That pavilion was
Yeah,
massive.
it was a good size. I don't know really how big it is, but it's pretty good size. It's probably a I don't know, 100-foot by 50-foot. I don't know. It's probably somewhere in that ballpark.
But anyway, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we upload new videos. Till next time, bye-bye. Stay spicy. Join us next time as we check out Fort Yargo State Park and its 1700s fort, scope out some campsites to kick off our summer camping, and take a minute just soaking up the beautiful day.